We understand how important volunteerism is to any nonprofit, and that's why we offer public interfaces like a volunteer task calendar where volunteers can sign up for tasks. If volunteerism is a big part of what you do, you might decide to take it a step further and ask about our volunteer portals. I'm Adam, I'm one of the developers here at Argenta, and in this video, I'll give you a tour of one of our volunteer portals and the things included as part of choosing one for your organization. Let's jump right in here. I'm going to walk through the steps in order, so we'll start with signing up to become a volunteer. So every volunteer portal has a login screen, but if someone lands here and they're not a volunteer yet, they can click this sign up to become a volunteer link, and that will take them over to the volunteer sign up form. Obviously, you can also create a link or a button on your website so potential volunteers can get started working with your organization. This is a very self-explanatory process. The user just fills in all the contact information fields. Then they can move down here to the more specific volunteer information that we collect about them. Maybe this volunteer has a background in event planning and communications, so they select event coordinator and social media as their areas of interest. Then they indicate that they have experience in fundraising, social media, and writing. Now, keep in mind that you set all of these choices in your instance of Argenta. The ones you see here are just the ones we use with our demo account. And just real quick, to do that, you go to classification codes in the main menu, scroll way down to the bottom, and first pick volunteer needs. These translate as areas of interest on the volunteer form. You can always go back to classification codes by clicking the Back to Code List button. Then next, you'll choose constituent skills. And this list translates as volunteer skills. And finally, the user can add any additional information here, like when they can work or if they have allergies or anything they want you to know about them. This just leaves an open field for information that wasn't specifically asked in the form fields. The final step is for the user to submit the form, which enters everything into Argenta. So they'll have a constituent record created automatically, and that's where you can find all of their information. They will also have a lead record created for them. And what that means is that they're not a volunteer yet, they don't have a portal login or anything, they're still in the potential volunteer stage. When a form is completed, an email gets sent out to the email address you've designated in your system as the email that should receive volunteer notifications. A copy also gets sent to the primary email address, as most emails do. Once you receive the email, you can go into Argenta, check the information, and potentially reach out to them, whatever process your organization has in place. Once you determine they're a good fit and you want to move forward, making them a volunteer, you can convert that lead to a volunteer very easily, create a portal login for them in Portal Tools from your main menu, and notify them that they can log into the volunteer portal. We're finally at the part of the video where we can log in to the volunteer portal. One last thing to show you here, before we log in though, if a volunteer forgets their password, that's no problem. They can click the Forgot Password link, type the email that they use for the portal here, then click the Reset Password button. A secure link will be sent to them where they can reset their password. No problem. Okay, now I'll click the Back to Login button and we can actually log in here. When you log in, you're immediately taken to the dashboard, which of course is like the home base for the volunteer. Just like in Argenta, the main menu will always show up here on the left side of the screen, no matter where you are. The portal recognizes the volunteer and displays a welcome message with the user's email address and a link to your website. This is also on every page of the portal. The dashboard itself has the volunteer's info always displayed along with the volunteer task statistics for both the organization and the individual volunteer. Another great thing about the dashboard is the dashboard message section. This is where you can leave messages for your volunteers about anything you'd like them to know. You'll find the dashboard editor in your portal tools in Argenta, and that works with the Argenta editor. So you can add images, upload documents, use emojis, all that good stuff. Okay, let's go through each of the different parts of the portal one by one. I'll just go down the menu, starting with My Profile. The My Profile page is very easy to understand. We ask for several important contact and demographic data points, many of them required fields. An important thing to note, if you send your volunteers text messages, get them to opt in here. If they don't actually opt in, US law says you cannot send them texts, so be careful about this. If your volunteers drive on behalf of your organization, it's a good idea to ask them to fill out the driving information section. The next menu item or section, I guess, is available tasks. This is pretty much the same thing as your public task sign-up page, but private and part of the portal. Volunteers can browse the available tasks and decide if they'd like to sign up. If they do, they just have to click the sign up button for the task they're interested in. That brings them into the task where they can see all the important details about what's happening, where they need to go, and what they need to do. The description and special instructions can be as extensive as the volunteer coordinator wants to make it when they post it in Argenta. The location field is a link to Google Maps. When the volunteer clicks it, it brings up a new browser tab and displays the Google Maps entry, which is helpful for obvious reasons. We don't want your volunteers getting lost along the way. The volunteer can enter any questions or comments they might have here. Clicking the Sign Me Up button finishes the process and they've signed up for the task. They'll get a confirmation of that, and they'll also receive an email with all the task details. They'll also get another task reminder with the task information 24 hours before the task. They can also click the Add to My Calendar button to add the task to their Google Calendar, or receive an invitation they can import into any other calendar program they use. They can go back to the task list, or they can click the Go to My Tasks button, which takes them to a list of all the tasks they've signed up for and any tasks they've completed in the past. They can open the task to see the task information, including contact, location, and any other details they need to complete the task. Again, they can add the task to their calendar, but only if the task is in the future, or that button won't show up here. And same with the Cancel This Task button. If the task is in the future, they can click this button to notify the volunteer coordinator that they can't complete the task. This doesn't automatically unassign them in case there's some reason the task can't be canceled. That's about all there is to the volunteer task part of the portal. There's a few more features that make the portal pretty great, so I'll walk through them quickly so you know they're available. First is the Documents library. If you want to share documents with your volunteers or allow them to share documents with you or your other volunteers, this is the place to do that. Volunteers can add a new document or open an existing one. Either way, they'll be taken into the Documents workspace. Before we open a document, just a few things here. Volunteers can search for a document by name, document ID, or the user who posted it. They can sort the list a few different ways, and they can download the document right from the list by clicking the Download Document icon. They could also delete a document by clicking the Delete icon, but it's not recommended that you let your volunteers do that. We typically turn that off by default, then you can request to have it turned back on. You can delete any document in your portal tools. Now let's open up the document workspace here. This is a very simple interface, but I'll go through it for clarity. There's a title for the document, which is the only required field. There's an optional document description, so volunteers know why they might need to download the document. And there's the document manager. This document is already uploaded, so if you wanted to remove it, you would click the Remove File button. That would remove the document and delete the file from the system. And now I can show you how to upload a document. You can click the Browse button to find a document on your device, or you can just drag and drop one into the drop zone, like this. If you chose the wrong file or changed your mind, you can remove the file before you upload it. If not, you can click any of the Save buttons to save the document and upload it to the server. That's it. That's all there is to this. If you want to exit this document and go back to the list, you can click Save and Exit or the list icon here in the title bar, and that takes you back to the document library where we started from. Okay, the last big piece of the volunteer portal is discussions. Discussions is a forum. So, like, a lot of people know what Reddit is, and this is by no means Reddit, but it serves a similar purpose where your volunteers can have conversations about things pertaining to being a volunteer. Anyone with a portal login can start a discussion and or post a response to other discussions, but only the person who makes a post can edit it, whether it's a discussion or a response. Same goes for deleting. Only the person who posted something can delete it. You or anyone on your team can edit or delete any post in Argenta in your portal tools. Whichever email address is designated as the recipient for volunteer notifications will receive an email whenever a discussion is created or a reply is posted. The reason for this is basically security and accountability. You really want to make sure all posts are appropriate and meet your organization's standards. We've actually had some issues with harassment in one of our volunteer portals, and we had to shut it down. We don't tolerate any behavior that makes others feel unsafe, disrespected, or targeted. Our expectation is that all communication in our spaces reflects our core values: respect, professionalism, and accountability. Okay, that was a pretty high-level overview of how discussions works, but I'll walk through it a little to make sure you were able to see how it comes together and how easy it is to use. Creating a new discussion is real simple. You just click the Start a New Discussion button. The user enters a subject or title for the post, then types or pastes their message or thoughts here into the Argenta content editor. The editor is pretty easy to understand, but we do have some pretty great videos on it if you wanted to dive a little deeper. The user saves the post by clicking the Save Post button, and that takes them back to the discussion list. Users can scroll through the list to read the latest posts, or they can open a post to see all the comments and responses. To post a response, just click the Add Comment button here. This is where the user can post their response, and just like before, they can use the powerful Argenta editor to construct their post. When they've finished, they'll click Submit to save and post it, and you can see it here below the original post. Posts are listed in descending order, so the latest post shows up at the top. Users can scroll through the responses if they're interested in the subject, so it makes the user experience clean and simple. Like with the original post, the user who posted the response can edit it or delete it, as can you in your portal tools. Just a reminder here, only the user who makes a post can edit or delete it in the portal. This is important for integrity and accountability, like I covered pretty thoroughly before. That is about all there is to discussions. Like I said, it can really improve communication with your volunteers and provide them with a fun and helpful experience in the portal. Okay, we've got one last thing to cover, and that's settings. Like any system, this is where users can do things like edit their name and email address, upload a profile picture, and change their password. The settings page in your volunteer portal is a simple, standard interface that your volunteers should be able to easily understand. Okay, one last thing here. A volunteer can request to become inactive. This can happen for a few different reasons, like they may be moving out of the area, or they have to take some time to deal with something in their personal life, things like that. They can choose a reason here in this field. You can set these reasons in Argenta in classification codes by scrolling all the way to the bottom again and choosing volunteer inactive reasons. The volunteer also has the opportunity to enter comments or an explanation of why they're going inactive. This is helpful for your team to understand the reason and possibly reach out to discuss this with the volunteer. Now I'll toggle the active volunteer switch because I want to show you how volunteers with open tasks can't make themselves inactive. Obviously, this is because that task will be assigned to an inactive volunteer and probably won't be completed. At this point, the designated volunteer email address will receive a notification about this, and they can reach out to the volunteer to discuss the situation. If this volunteer hadn't had any open tasks, she would have been marked as inactive in your system, and an email would have been sent to the email address designated to receive volunteer notifications. And that is it. That's a pretty comprehensive overview of a standard out-of-the-box volunteer portal. If you thought of some features that you wanted that we don't offer in our standard iteration, talk to your account manager. We are willing to talk about small customizations, but that requires a custom portal, and there's obviously a fee for that. Don't worry though, we are always adding new features and upgrading parts of the system, and we do want to make sure that volunteers are having a good experience in your portal, so we'll probably be adding some new things real soon. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. For more information on volunteerism or any of the modules in Argenta, check out our knowledge base at argentasoftware.com/kb.